Welcome to Be Now for Tuesday, February the 14th, Valentine's Day for all you that don't remember, but this is Don McLeod, and I am joined by Fazel Khan. Faz, how you doing?
I'm good, Don, and if this is your reminder that it's Valentine's Day, I think you're in big trouble.
Yeah. It's a reminder for some guys out there. It's like they're going to be driving home and somebody's going to mention on the radio it's Valentine's Day, and he's going to say, oh my God, I forgot all about it. Trust me, there's at least one guy doing that right now.
Yes. Okay, Don. So since it is Valentine's Day, we don't want to have too long of a show, right? Because you have to go cook. I have to go cook. I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's go through the agenda. So we're going to remember Hazel.
Yep.
She I guess her funeral was today.
Yep.
She died. When did she die, Don? Was it in January?
Yes, it was. I think it was about a week and a half ago.
Okay. So to remember Hazel, we got a video to show. I think everybody needs to watch that, especially if you're in a nonprofit or you're a volunteer.
Yep.
She had some really interesting things to say about almost exactly a year ago. And then we're also going to talk about Cassie Campbell. There was a public skate. You did a quick interview with her. And we're going to do some gossip talk. This is our gossip segment. We should just call it John Tory from going forward, the John Tory segment. And then we have an update on the prize. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. Okay. So remembering Hazel, Don, what do you remember? I'll show you some pictures.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. Okay. Yeah, that's some of the photographs that were on Bonnie Crombie's page.
Bonnie's Facebook page. So they're probably.
Yeah. So that was at the Paramount Center there in Mississauga. Looks like a big crowd of politicians turned out for that one. I think Jean Chrétien was there, past prime ministers. Was Justin Trudeau there today?
Yeah, Justin Trudeau was there. Doug Ford was there.
Yeah, Patrick Brown was there.
Yeah, I don't think Patrick Brown spoke, but the Premier, Chrétien, Trudeau spoke. Bonnie, of course, spoke.
Yeah.
There's
she was the longest serving mayor for Mississauga. I think she served 36 years, if my memory correct. It was 1978 she was first elected, and I think
first elected as mayor, but I think
yes, yeah, first elected.
She was also mayor of Streetsville before,
Yeah, but as Mississauga, she was longest serving mayor, right? You know who the first mayor of Mississauga was?
No.
Robert Speck.
Oh, Robert Speck Parkway. I don't know where that is, but it rings a bell in my head.
Exactly, right? And then there was a second mayor. I can't remember his name. And then there was Hazel for 36 years. Unbelievable, eh?
Actually, I'm not sure she's the longest serving mayor anymore, Don, but definitely for one of Canada's big cities, she is.
In Mississauga, she is. That's for sure.
Okay. And I've seen some criticisms of her. I'm not sure this is the time to criticize.
Well, it's not the time to criticize. It's like, you know what? She lived a long life. It was full. She held, even at the time of 101, she was on the board of the Greater Toronto Airport Authority, GTAA, and she was also on the board of the Green Belt, which, a lot of people and stuff like that. But
both, she was making some big coin.
She was still making money at that. And the thing is, a lot of people don't know, but she was born in Quebec.
Yeah, and she was a professional hockey player. She was getting $5.
Well, I wouldn't call it professional. She was
Don, I saw.
Hey, listen, she was in a league with 3 women's teams.
You get paid to play hockey. That's pro.
$5 in Montreal to play.
That was like $1 million in back in the day. Oh, okay.
That's like calling the Ottawa Senators that won the Confederation Cup a professional hockey team. Come on.
It's like I was going to say something with Toronto Maple Leafs, but I will not.
Also, she was instrumental in getting the. It's funny because the International Hockey League Federation of the female International Hockey Federation for the females. She was for the women's hockey. She was instrumental in getting that in Mississauga in 2000, in the year 2000, and this year, 2023, Brampton is actually hosting it.
Yeah, and I think our mayor Patrick Brown was on CP24 talking about how Hazel would be calling him, even like after she passed 100 years, about availability of ice in Brampton or something. Anyways, she was very active. And we do have a video of her that we took about almost exactly a year ago. So this isn't a very old video. And we've showed it before on this program, but it's worth showing again. I was there. We basically were trying to get her to do a little promo for an event for a nonprofit.
Yep.
And she said the words that if I said would have would not resonate, but because she said it, I think it resonates a lot more. So let's hear what she had to say, Don. It's a couple minutes, but let's talk about it afterwards. Here we go.
Yep.
So I think it's up to these organizations such as yours to do a better job of communicating to the people, getting messages out constantly to the public through radio, through TV, and through the press. I think a lot of organizations fail because they don't do a good job of communication. They just don't. I mean, I bet you if you walked out on the street and asked people, they'd look at you and say, what in the world is that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, organizations get too involved internally, and they don't realize that communication is the world's biggest problem, and it's the biggest problem of volunteer organizations and people that are wanting to do good. They neglect communication. You don't do a good job. You don't publicize what's going on. You listen to the radio. Every bad organization gets publicity, but good organizations don't get it, not because the TV and the press refuses to publish it. It's because they don't make the effort to let the press know that they exist and what's going on.
Violence against
Do you
women.
ever think of issuing a press release? Have you ever thought of getting in touch with CP24 or CBC to talk to about the work, or inviting them to your place to see what goes on? You got to make an effort.
Those are
And volunteer organizations don't make an effort. They just don't. They just sit there. Say, we need money. Yeah. Well, you're not going to get money to support your group unless you let people know you exist and what work goes on. Communication is the world's biggest problem. And it's the biggest problem of volunteer organizations.
to
What do you have to say about that, Don?
Yeah, she's still, like she was pretty adamant, knew what she was talking about, clear-headed. So, we've talked about this before about many organizations, and even communiques coming out, and it's just a press release and a whole bunch of words and a whole bunch of letters. But when it comes down to actually, doing something and letting people know what they do, it's a failure on many levels, right? So we talked about this before.
Yeah, and at 101 years old, that is how she got Mississauga in on headlines and things, right? That's how she attracted businesses to the city, and every nonprofit needs to follow that advice. As you said, Don, we work with a lot of nonprofit groups. In the summertime, we hire students to help other nonprofits with videos and things. And it actually gets a little bit depressing to see how stagnant these organizations are, especially the ones that have been around a long time and have established funding. Their goal almost seems to be to persist, not to solve a problem. Every nonprofit should be solving a problem, not just paying salaries.
Well, it's not only that, but the thing is they basically internalize and they silo themselves. And we talked about this before, organizations being siloed, and they don't want a partnership, and they don't want to work together with other organizations because they think it waters down its message. And we've done work for many organizations over 6 or 7 years, in existence, and we've done stuff for them. We've done videos, we've held town halls. They don't share anything. And it's like, why would we do that again for organizations that don't take the time and the effort that we put into it and then share their message? They're getting free publicity on something like that basically they can go forward and use it for their organization. And, we've talked about this before, but ad nauseum. But going forward, yes, Hazel left a big void. There's a lot of things named after her. She's got a whole whack of things, including the HR or the LRT line coming up. It's the Hazel McCallion line. She's got libraries named after her, so on and so forth. So she left a long legacy, some of it good, some of it bad. But I guess if you're in politics...
Well, I think most of it is good, though, right?
Yeah, well, if you're in politics for that long a time, I mean, you can pick up the phone and call just about anybody. I mean, if you want to have connections or wanted to have connections with anybody, I'm sure a lot of the people went through Hazel McCallion because, like I said, she could pick up the phone and she could talk to the prime minister if she wanted to and get through to him. So,
yeah, well, and some of the criticisms I've seen, referring to her, the biggest title, most negative title she has is Queen of Sprawl.
mm-hmm.
But and then people criticize her now for what she did 30 years ago. 30 years ago, she was probably going by what the public planning idea of the day was.
Well, she even stated, later on after she was not mayor, that there was a lot of mistakes made in the planning department and so on and so forth. And yes, there's this and that. But anyway, we're not here to go over her legacy. She passed away.
But it also goes down to city building, right? One of the reasons she's recognized so well is because she built Mississauga. Like it or not, it's the top fifth largest city in Canada.
Yeah.
And when she started, it was a rural community, basically, right?
Yeah.
And she saw that growth. And for all those public planners out there who criticize her, whatever you decide today, 30 years from now, I'm thinking somebody's going to look back and say that was a pretty bad idea you had, right?
Well, most North American cities are based on urban planning in North America. They're not European-based cities in planning, and that's the unfortunate part. I've mentioned many times I love going to Europe because of the way the cities are planned out. They're not planned for cars. In North America, since the 50s, we planned for cars, urban sprawl, suburbia, and it is what it is, right? So,
yeah. And Hazel was my mayor. I used to live in Mississauga in the Streetsville area, so she was my mayor. So I liked her. I voted for her. And she will be missed. And I don't think there are too many politicians that can live up to that longevity anymore, right? We lost Bill Davis. Now we're losing Hazel. I can't think of another politician that has been in, I guess maybe John Chrétien, he was there. He's been around a long time. But there aren't that many politicians that, been around since the 70s anymore.
Well, don't forget, there's not a lot of long-serving politicians. She served for 36 years. I mean, Jean Chrétien, he was prime minister. And then he went to work for basically the Desmarais Group and Power Corporation. He was, like a lobbyist for, Chinese corporations and so on and so forth. So there's a big difference between, when you're prime minister, for 2 or 3 terms or whatever it was that he was prime minister. I mean, it's different. You're ruling for 36 years. Guess how many people, Hazel's gone through how many prime ministers?
Right.
How many
premiers?
It's how many mayors of Toronto, how many other mayors across Canada, right? It's staggering, right? The amount of people that have dropped by the wayside that she has known and she surpassed, right? So that's what I'm saying. She could have picked up the phone to all her contacts over the 36 years and got people on the phone, right? So,
and what was impressive is when she did run for mayor, she never campaigned. I don't think she even spent money, right? Because
probably not.
She didn't have to. And speaking of mayors, we will talk about John Tory, but first let's talk about Cassie Campbell. So Don, you were at a public skate. Let's show the video quickly. Here we
go.
Where's the video, Don? Oh, here it is.
Great to have Cassie Campbell here today in Brampton. She has never forgotten her roots. She's Brampton proud. Such a successful international career, one of Canada's most accomplished hockey players, and now in the broadcast world. Great to have her here promoting outdoor hockey and recreation, and to join us for a public skate. It's a special day in the city of Brampton.
Yeah, she was there. Everybody knows Cassie Campbell. I mentioned to her, I said, "Hey, we have a whole rec center named after you," and she says, "Yeah, I know."
And I think that public skate was supposed to be at that rec center, but they moved.
It was, and they changed it. So I don't know maybe there was a hockey tournament that was already booked there, and nobody knew about it.
Did you ask her? Hey, are you the same Cassie? Did you ask her? Are you the same Cassie?
No. So she was there. She was good. She's done she works on ESPN as a commentator, and she also works at CBC. So her legacy again is something. How many gold medals does Cassie have? Is it two or 3?
I think it's 2.
The women won, yeah. So, again, it'll be interesting because the IIHF championships, as I mentioned, are in Brampton this year, 2023. So, I think Cassie will probably
IIHF again, international. What does that stand for?
International Ice Hockey Federation, right?
Okay. Women's.
So it's the women's championships that are taking place in Brampton this year. So that's good. I mean, it's it'll be a showcase for Brampton. So I don't know where the games are being held. I think they still have to sort that out, whether some are at the CAA or maybe some at Cassie Campbell and the other rinks that we have. But that's coming up in Brampton, so that's going to be interesting. I'm sure, like I said, Cassie Campbell is going to be playing a big part of that. She works for CBC and ESPN, so I'm sure she's going to have something to say about that. So looking forward to that, actually. Good ice hockey games. You know, and I know it comes down to the Canadians and Americans, so it'll be a showdown between those two teams for sure.
Yep. Okay, now let's get to our gossip segment that we're calling John Tory.
John Tory. John.
So John Tory is like a little bit slightly older than you, Don.
Yeah, I'm better looking though.
Yeah, okay. And and he had an affair with somebody that's significantly younger than him that worked. I was going to say under him, worked at City Hall.
You're going to say he worked. She worked under him.
Well,
Very good, Faz. Very.
31 years old, from what I understand. That is the reason I think he had to resign, not because of her age, but because she worked for him. What do you think?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on Twitter and social media that talking about, the stuff behind it. Was it really that? Was it someone else was gunning for him, so on and so forth? I don't know. But all I know is apparently people were getting messages last night, telemessages left on the ransom machine talking about, would you vote for John Tory if he ran again as mayor? And do you think John Tory should resign? Blah, blah, blah. So they get the political machine of John Tory actually out there. He said he's going to resign, right? But he hasn't resigned yet. He's waiting to pass the budget. And then he's going to resign, apparently. But, I mean, you got a whole whack of people that are putting their names into the hat for running for mayor of Toronto.
Yeah, if he doesn't resign, because, I don't think he's submitted the paperwork, that's going to be chaos. And like, you think it was bad in Brampton last term when, councillors were calling and running the seat, downtown Toronto for you should see what's going to happen in Toronto if he flip-flops and doesn't resign. It's going to be chaos.
Yeah, well, like, don't forget the what was the premier of Manitoba?
Don't look at me. I don't know the name of the premier.
Anyway, I'm trying to remember. It was a brain
Alberta?
block, but yeah. Hey?
Was it Alberta or Manitoba? Okay.
Anyway, whatever. Well, it'll come to me probably after. But he resigned, and then he didn't resign later, and then he finally resigned. So John Tory now is, I'm going to resign, but maybe I'm not going to resign. But you got people like who came in second? Was it
Gil
Pelinosa?
Yeah, he was second. Almost 100,000 votes, I think.
Okay. So you got him. He's running again. Giorgio Mammoliti, who actually ran in Wasaga Beach as mayor and lost. He's saying, yeah, okay, I want to run too. I think this guy runs for everything, right? He's incredible. This is the same councillor that wanted to put red light district on the island, right?
Well, I'm surprised, Don, because in Brampton, if a councillor resigns, like Charmaine Williams did, the council gets to have a vote on it if they want to have a by-election or if they want to just nominate somebody.
Right, they have a choice. I
don't know if it's the same thing in Toronto. I guess maybe a mayor is a special case. I don't know.
Yeah,
because they could just elect somebody from within their council.
Well, I mean, you have a deputy mayor, but I don't think the deputy mayor, that position is like the vice president. Where the president gets shot and the vice president is already sworn in. I don't think it's that type of a succession type atmosphere, right? So I think
the other alternative is for there to be a mayoral by-election. I guess not but another election. But then John Tory runs in that election. It would be chaotic as well.
Well, that's what the telephone poll was indicating. If he resigns and then decides to run again, I mean, how ridiculous would that be? Now you're resigning, and now you're causing another election. It's going to cost.
It's going to cost millions of dollars. Yeah,
right. So that's a ridiculous scenario, right? So.
And then the rumor is there's got to be more behind the story because he announces he resigned so quickly. I think I saw the notice at 8:25 that John Tory is going to the Toronto Star. I saw the Toronto Star article at 8:25, and then there's an indication that at 8:30 is a press conference. And I said the only reason he would have a press conference at 8:30 is if he's resigning, and he resigned. I was shocked, even though I thought that's what else would you do on a Friday night after an article like that? See, he didn't do it. That's you do that on Monday after you have some time to think. So he had some time to think because no doubt the Toronto Star contacted him and other counselors during the week before they released the story. I was surprised they released the story on a Friday afternoon. They at least wait on Monday. You'll get a lot more. Well, I guess they're also thinking about Hazel, right? Hazel's funeral. I don't know. I'm not in the editorial room for the Toronto Star. Some people are criticizing it because obviously Doug Ford is in the news as well for his dealings with developers. So our political situation in Ontario is a little bit chaotic. John Tory, as the mayor of the biggest city in Canada and the mayor of the biggest city in the GTA, he's the leader, I think, of the GTA. And now that he's gone, there's a void. And so we'll see what happens there. And if somebody like how do you say his name?
Gil Pelanosa
gets reelected, which I think he's the front runner now. He obviously came in second. He's got some very different ideas than your traditional mayor anywhere in Canada. I like his ideas. They're big and bold. So that would be very interesting to see.
Well, here's the other scenario that a lot of people are talking about, and they're thinking, Doug Ford's ideas to basically amalgamate Caledon, Mississauga, and Brampton into one huge region of Peel with one mayor.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that or not.
I don't know, but that's what he's thinking, right? So,
yeah.
There's a whole bunch of different scenarios that are playing out. I mean, maybe it's a good time now to move up to Wawa, just, a single town with 100 people, get away from the chaos. But
you move there first, Don, and then if everything works out, I'll join you. We'll start Wawa.
Yeah, well, we could. Remotely we can do anything, right? As long as we got an internet signal, we can go live. No big deal.
Okay, and to wrap things up, Don, last week we had a prize.
Oh, yeah.
And I still have it here. Because the person that won the prize never contacted me, which I did tell everybody I was going to email the person. I emailed them asking them, well, we need to know your address to drop it, and I didn't hear back. So I'm going to send another email after the show tonight, and if we don't hear back,
it'll be up next week.
It'll be up next week.
Yeah, it'll be up next week. So here's the thing: next Monday is Family Day. It's a holiday for a lot of people. Well, everyone in Ontario, basically. So. We'll be on the 21st, which is a Tuesday, and we will see you then. In the meantime, both Faz and I, we have to go to cook the Valentine's Day dinner, because that's the type of people that we are. The men were responsible. What did you get your wife for Valentine's Day, Faz?
Okay, see you later, Don. See you next week.
All right, we'll talk to you later. Thank you for joining us.